Good afternoon and welcome to the San Mateo Arboretum Society's seminar, Rose Propagation from Cuttings. The program will last approximately 60 to 90 minutes and be recorded. Stu will answer questions about what he's discussing at that time. All other questions will be answered at the end of the program. For those viewing on Zoom, submit your questions by clicking on the chat box icon at the bottom of your screen. Before we start, a little information about what is happening at the Arboretum Society. Our nursery in San Mateo Central Park is usually open 12 to 3 on Saturdays and Sundays. Payment is by credit, debit, Google, and Apple Pay. No cash is accepted. Nursery is staffed by volunteers and may occasionally be closed. Check our website, sanmateoarboretum.org, or call 650-579-0536 extension 2 for updated information. While you're in Central Park, visit the Rose Garden, Butterfly Hummingbird Garden, and our Sun and Shade demonstration gardens. All are maintained by Arboretum Society volunteers. Now I'd like to introduce today's speaker, Stu Dalton, American Rose Society Master Rosarian, past president of the Peninsula Rose Society, and current membership chair. He's been teaching rose care and giving pruning demonstrations and talks for decades. In his spare time, he cares for more than 250 roses in his Menlo Park home. I always learn something new, and know you will too. Welcome, Stu.
Thank you, Susan, and welcome everybody. I will answer questions afterward for those that are still around here after, and I will have a few things to say today that are useful to know in general, and we'll get started with a few of those generalized things that aren't on the slides, then I'll switch to slides. Then I'll go back at the end and do demonstrations so that you'll get to see physically how I do this. So an example. Anybody know what this is? Aside from a rose leaf. You see the yellow mottling? It looks like lightning. That's a virus. You cannot get rid of it. It's with the rootstock, and things, I've received rootstock that was infected and it was grafted on very nice roses, and it goes up into the rose. It comes from grafting. So one thing not to do is try and reproduce any of these, or you'll have a weak rose that has this mottling. Now, you may think it's pretty. And camellias, some of the camellias have desired viruses that give them a leaf that's variegated. We're not looking for that in roses. That's an example of something you won't see in the slides particularly. And then the other thing I'll show is this is a pruner, and I will show a few things about it, but having the right tools helps. A sharp pruner, how do you tell it's sharp? It cuts paper. How do you sharpen it? I like this one because it's very easy. You can also sharpen kitchen knives, a lot of other things with it. It's got a very hard surface. The surface is silicon carbide. And then what you do, I hold it like that. And that's so that I'm right-handed. So I'm holding it down and then I'm following the bevel to scrape it. It's sharp. Now, if it's really dull, it won't cut the paper. And it's harder on your hand for arthritis and things, and harder on the rose because it crushes it instead of cutting it clean. You want to cut it clean for some of the prep work we're going to do. I do have a few other things I'll talk about. We have some information on soils, and I have something here that is one of the important things on soils is the pH. I was a chemical engineer by training and whatnot. Worked for a fertilizer company testing plant tissue, worked for an agronomist, et cetera. But mainly, I didn't work on anything, but I worked a lot on pH. So pH testing for soil. I can put it here if it's any better. You want me to? Yeah, well, okay. Yeah, there you go. It's a a pH test kit that's cheap. For 100 of these strips, you can get for about 13 bucks, something like that. Amazon has it. I think other places have it too. But the thing is, if you go for a detailed soil test, I'll talk about that later, that can run you into big money, and you need to take multiple soil tests. This is very important. It's something that can cause real problems with nutrition. Okay, we'll get started on the general talk now. If you could switch to the slides. There we go. People often ask me what's my favorite rose, and the answer is the one on the right. It's called Sally Holmes. It sits on the arbor above the info tables out here if you want to look at the plant. It's also the favorite rose photographed at Filoli. I work with the docents on the rose garden up there and the head of horticulture there. And it's a big, beautiful climber. It's not a climber, it's a shrub. So you can cut it down, you can have it fit in your space, and it blooms prolifically, big sprays. I also have a picture on the, let me do this. Over here on the left, the roots in that's about a 2-month to 3-month-old set of 4 roses in one 4-inch pot. We'll show the 4-inch pots in a minute, but you take it off and you see there's a lot of roots there, and that can grow fairly quickly. You often get a few roots in a week, 2, 3 weeks, but they're little tiny. The easiest way to kill the thing is it dries out because there's nothing to sustain it. So, why, what, when, how? Those are the journalistic questions you're supposed to ask. Well, it's the same for a presentation here. I'm going to go through this and try and do that. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about potting it up and then planting it permanently and some of the soil issues, because it's important to get it started and then to get it growing right. So this is what I'm going to cover. And I used the same slide, but I added a few things there in the way it was shown a little closer up. This is about 3-month-old in the slide. Choose the plants you want. Some propagate more easily than others. Some hybrid teas have weak own roots. That's why they're grafted onto other rootstock. And it's often a rootstock that's red. If you get suckers and it blooms once, it's probably Dr. Huey. That's the rootstock they use in California a lot. But you can see here the roots that are really permeating. And what I often do is wait till I see it come through the bottom with my bottom water. And when I see the root come through the bottom, I know to take it out and at least separate it out, and I pot it up into different sizes. You want, I mentioned before we started, let's see, we switch to, now I'll just talk about this. That's okay. The American Rose Society has a book that they give out with membership every year, and this has about 5,000 roses in it, and it has in it a listing of when they were hybridized, so you can be sure it doesn't have a patent because it will have run out if it's before 2003. There are some that never got patented, but you have to look those up in a patent index. 5,000 roses or more. It takes a while. Many old roses and shrub roses are long since out of patent, and they all grow well on their own roots. All minis are on their own roots. Have one right over here in a box was brought in, and that's on its own roots. They all propagate well. And recently bloomed, I'll show this later, recently bloomed is the best. The petals, when it blooms, when it goes semi-dormant, you pull them off and it turns to hips. That's telling the plant hormones, I'm done for the year. And that's good because you want that stage where they'll grow roots, but not many more flowers. And so the best time is now on through pruning time. And when you're pruning, guess what? You've got a lot of material that you can stick in the ground. If you don't want to do anything else, stick it in the ground nearby so you know what the heck it is. Also, one of the failure points, losing the darn tags. I like these. Well, again, I'll show those later. I like the vinyl tags and a permanent marker, but you can also do it in pencil. It won't fade, it won't rub off. Pencil is actually better. It's hard to read from a distance, but you can use both. You can use a permanent marker, preferably a garden marker, and put the name down. And you want the connection to the main cane. I'll show you a picture of that. Some roses are more difficult and they may not work well. I've had roses that started that were hybrid teas, and I went, oh, this is great, it's starting, and then it died because it just didn't have a strong root system. It was one that was grabbed. Oh, the one I showed just then. That's a little over a year old. It's about 18 months old. Notice there are blooms here, blooms here. That was the second or third bloom. So it really, in a year to 2 years, you should expect lots of blooms. So next one. This shows you where to cut them. It's a little hard to see. I'll highlight in a minute. Now is a good time to cut. Growth is slowed down. The plant hormones are ready to grow strong roots and not foliage, because they do that during the winter. And take a recently bloomed cutting, cut sturdy, healthy canes near the base, and I'm going to show that in a couple of slides here. Use pencil or special marker that will last, or both. I do both. I also put the date I did the cutting in pencil so that I can remember and see how old it is. Put in water immediately. These are in water. I'll use these later. Now, the place that this is, you can see a blade there. That blade is you can see it's right next to the main cane. This is the main branch or cane. And then this side branch, you want to cut right near where the juncture is. Why? Because that's where the roots, it's a heavy node area, and that's where the roots want to form. Now, you can cut them up further, but that's really the most active zone to create roots. You can see it here after I've separated it. You can see the heel of that cut right here, and this, you can barely see it, but there's some nodes right here. And then you put it immediately in water. So and I noticed even in this one, because it's really hard to remember. I've got 10 things I just cut. What was that? It looks the same when there are no flowers and no leaves on it. It says fame. That's a particular one. These are from right to left. These are sort of the stages. I've got some of these in front of people here, but I'll show those later. But the cutting itself, you can take, sorry, hit the wrong button. Cutting itself has all the leaves on it, has all the thorns on it. Then I stripped it, got the leaves off. You can still see the nascent buds. Well, actually, they're nascent hips there. So you know which end is up, but you don't have to leave that. What happened here?
Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Oh, you've got the cursor on there. It's
Take it back.
okay, sorry. So the first buds you can expect in 2 to 4 weeks, but just barely breaking. It's not using up much of the reservoir of moisture, which is in the stem. The stem is where you get the nutrition and the moisture to get it started. So that's why you want more vigorous cuttings. You don't need as big a one for a mini because you don't have as big a one for a mini. You get some leaves just starting in 3 to 6 weeks typically. And you get roots. In this one shows what you can see of the roots in 3-month-old. Happens to be a Sally Holmes. I remember this one. And then this is what it looks like when they're still in the medium. And then you can up pot to that point, at that 3-month point, to 1 gallon. That's the little size that not really a gallon, it's a number 1 pot. And then you can, in 7 to 10 months, typically you can have a lot of growth, and you can up pot to 5 gallons. And at our May show, May 5th next year, we sell, to raise money for the Peninsula Rose Society, we sell 1 gallon and 5 gallons. And it's all for fundraising. But you can do that yourself. Here's a question.
Can you clarify, you put the cutting in water, and at what point do you put it in soil?
As soon as you prep it. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you, at what point do you take the cutting from water and put it in the soil? I'm going to show that in a minute, but in the demo. But I'll show the prep part here shortly. And there are other methods in putting it in soil. The banana method is one I came across recently. If you think about it, what happens when a banana gets rotten? It's slushy, it's moist, it has potassium in it, as we all know, to eat bananas for potassium, which encourages roots. So theoretically, you could ruin the banana and just stick a pencil in there and then stick the cutting in there. Now, if you add things like I'll talk about in a minute, it'll help. But they supply the moisture and the nutrients. And I'll show the prep here in just a minute. You can also try the potato experiment. Potato is another medium. I never had much luck with that. I did grow some potatoes, but that's not what I was trying. It's supposed to suck up all the nutrients. And just to give you an idea, this is what happens at 1 year for a climber. 1.5 years, and this is a 6-foot fence. And 1.9 years. This is a once bloomer from 1817. It's been around for a long time. It's a damask, heavy fragrance. This one is lighter rose, a very nice shrub. And this is a large flowered climber from a butterscotch, sort of color of butterscotch. That's why it's named that. I got that cutting about a year ago from the head of the San Francisco Rose Garden in Golden Gate Park. And it really took off. It bloomed twice this year since it's a year old. And I just put it out next to this new area. When you plant them in the fall, you pick and prep the site in the fall, then plant. They prefer 5+ hours of sun. Some of them will do with a little less. Some roses tolerate shade, hybrid musk, and you water well before transplanting. I'll go through this and then I'll show how you prep the cuttings. We were talking about that. I'll do that here, real time. When you're planting, this is sort of a diagram that's used for planting bare roots. But if you forget the cone part and you've got a root ball, you can just slide it out from like a 1 gallon or a 5 gallon, slide it out from a 1 gallon, put it directly on the prepared material. You want good gardens. Good garden soil, and you want, let's see, sorry. Good garden soil mixed with good compost. Roses like a rich soil. They sometimes say plant trees and things in the native soil, but just add a little compost. You want to add plenty of compost in the roses. Fill up the hole. A 2x2 is a good size hole. That's for a big rose. And then fill it halfway. Slide the plant root over there. Remove it carefully so you don't damage too much. Keep it moist and label it. Always label. And then what kind of soil you use for the permanent planting is really important. Most people have not perfect soil. I know I've had good soil, but I've made it better since I learned more about soil from soil you can have it so that it's about a third water and air instead of, this is optimal, half water and air. People have had the brand new house and they had the yard scraped. You've got soil in there that's probably compacted. Heck, the tractors were over it, the bulldozers were over it, whatever. And the mineral matter is important too, for the, whoop. Did I do that?
No, I did it.
No problem. I'll just talk it through. Mineral matter is important too, and you can test your soil without the complicated soil test or even without the jar test, which is very easy to find. If you have any questions afterward, I have cards here and you can talk about specifics, but whoop. Whoa, okay, where did the three pieces?
There we go.
I think I skipped one on here. Let me go back and double check. I didn't skip one. I missed that one.
Yeah.
I missed that one. And I missed that one. How did I do that? I don't know. Sorry, I was thinking, where did the slides go? I got on that one, and I think I hope that was covered by the Zoom. If not, tell us on the chat and we'll figure out how to come back to it. I was wondering, now I know. I'm not hooked up here.
Very nice.
Okay, this goes to your question. It was next in line. Okay, this one shows a couple of things. The rooting part of the plant that you really want to have exposed is a fresh cambium layer. That's the growing layer. And you can sort of see it here. It's a stripe, it's pretty pale. And then you can see it where my thumb is here. It's exposed, and I use the sharp blade of the shears to cut away. There are three ways you can do it. Make slanted cuts, make a V. You can cut the middle and make a split, which gives more surface area. And I often do it with these stripes. So I scrape the bottom in a couple areas and prep the media, which we're going to demonstrate with this material here. It's a augmented core. You're not familiar with the term, the thing that actually replaces peat moss, which is not sustainable and can cause bacterial infection. Most people don't know that. Is core, which is way abundant. It's the outer husk of the coconut, thrown away in some cases, or made into very expensive amendments that are very good. This one has added amendments. It has rock phosphate, it has mushroom compost, it has mycorrhizal, which help the rooting. It has endo and ectobacteria, which are in and out of the plant. It's really great stuff. As an amendment, it's expensive, but as rooting, that's what I root in these days, or rather, the plant's rooting. I haven't yet rooted myself. I know composting is legal in California now, but I haven't done that. Sorry. There are several other things you can use. Can you move the things from the side, or because I've noticed
Me?
no, yes, you. The things on the side are covering up part of the. How do we do that? Can you move it over or?
Collapse it.
Here.
Yeah, because I want that in front for the. There, well,
Yeah.
you can close that down to minimize. Yep. Okay, and then just go back to where we were. Perfect. Now, back. Okay. Now you can see what was covered up there. This is honey. If you don't know, honey will stay in your unrefrigerated forever because it's antibacterial, antifungal, and natural unpasteurized honey. Sugar, it'll stay forever too because no sane fungi will want to grow in pure sugar. But this has two things that you can use. This is a liquid. It's pretty thick and viscous when it's new. And this is a powder. There's rooting hormone that you've probably seen before. I order number 8. That will actually root things like rhododendrons and azaleas, which are hard to root. But it also roots roses pretty well. Then I make a little, and I'll show this in person later. I make a little 4-inch pot, fill it with moist wonder soil, and right away I put a tag in it, because I'm going to say this over and over. One of the failure modes is it won't root. The other failure mode is I can't tell what the heck it is. So you want to make sure you know what it is. Use honey gel or rooting hormone. I use sometimes the gel that makes the hormone stick. So I do it in like a container that's throwaway, not in the container that is the this container or this container, because you contaminate. You don't want bacteria to go in there. So back to the point, that's how we do it. And then I'll show you how we do it, a little better illustration here. These happen to be minis. So you see they're smaller than the pencil, because you're not going to get a pencil size on the mini. Take lots of cuttings, know what they are. You can plant some directly in the soil in a shaded place, like underneath another plant. And some of our Rosarians that are very experienced, when they're doing printing, they just put a bunch in right next to the plant. Some of them might grow, some of them might not. They don't pay any attention. Voila, they have extra plants. Okay. But if it's dry for even a day, they die because they have no roots. This shows, whoop, my arrow is not there yet. Back. Okay, the arrow shows, you see there's a little leaf left over here, one, and often I will cut off all but one leaf. Why? To give the plant the hormone signal that I'm up. This is down, down is where I grow roots. And so and the plant uses a little water to feed that leaf for a while. That's why I cut them down. Because you can leave a couple if you want, and you can put it in the core like that. But you put the powder on, put like a hole. You can sort of see, you look real careful, holes here with a pencil or your finger or a dowel, any of those work. And then you just put it down in there and you try and keep the powder on the base. Put it in about halfway. Here's some things that I've done in the past. I lost this greenhouse that shows here with orchids and rose starts. I lost a bunch of orchids from 30 years collection because a tree fell on it. And I've rebuilt it since then. And now I'm doing, this is from the new greenhouse. And I found that I can make a mini greenhouse out of one of these clear bins, put holes in the side near the bottom, maybe a half-inch from the bottom, and you can keep them bottom watered that way. And if they're dripped or whatever, it'll drain out so that it doesn't overwater them. Because the 3 ways you can kill them are drying out, drowning, the thing fills up with water, you can drown them, and pulling them out by accident. Those are 3 good ways to kill the rose. So what I didn't say on these last ones, now I tend to pull off or clip off the thorns so that you can handle them more easily, but mainly so that when here's one that has a thorn on it, it catches and you want to wear clothing that protects you. So I tend to now cut off the thorns. You can use drip. This is one where I have a shallow pan with holes in it. And then I have holes in the side, and then this drip is feeding that so that I had it on a special circuit that watered twice a day. This is a little mister, so I was trying both of them. They both work. This was a good propagation setup, also crushed by the tree back in January. And then this is what I'm doing recently before I had the greenhouse rebuilt, which I do now. And you can put the lid, that's actually a lid there. I leave it open partway so that the humidity is in there, but it's not just sealed tight. So think I was showing this before, so. And I was showing this before. So there are other ways to do it. Banana, the potato. Frankly, it's easier to do, I think it's for me, so I do them. If you have a banana that's going bad, you don't have to make banana bread, you can make new roses. Then I was talking about this. This shows you how far along you can get in a year, or a little longer. And I'm amazed, 6 feet high and a little over a year, it's already bloomed multiple times. All of them have bloomed several times. The one over here is very fragrant. It's the same type of rose that they make the perfume out of, a damask rose. Only blooms once. Celsiana. They're huge petals, huge blooms, very fragrant, but only blooms once. And you have to have room for it. I was talking about this, and I was talking about the soil, so I'm sorry I'm going back over it. Plenty of sun. Once it's up there and growing, and you're putting it out. Large containers are great. We were talking about, someone was talking about planters. I use big planters. Every 4 or 5 years, you probably need to root prune it, which you can empty it out, prune the outside roots off, add some new fresh soil, and put it back in the same one if you want. It's also sort of how you bonsai, but not quite. And you can keep it pruned down to a modest size. I have a video online about that. But you can permanent plant them with a big hole, organics. Don't use raw chicken manure. Chickens, pardon the expression, do not urinate. They put all their ammonia in the droppings, and so raw chicken manure will burn the heck out of many plants, including roses. Composted, well composted chicken manure, fine. Make sure it's well composted. Plus the cats love it, the dogs love it. That's a whole other story. Whoop, I'm not, it's okay. Okay, we talked about this, talked about soil. To build it, what you add is the 5%. I was getting to the point where I was talking about a soil test you can do literally with your hands. You don't have to use the jar test to look at the composition of the soil. You can do it with your hands. Grab some soil from underneath in the drip area, thereabouts, maybe 6 inches down. Have it moist. If you can squeeze it in your hand and it makes a firm shape like a banana or a cigar shape, and it'll stick, you probably have clay. Modeling clay, think of modeling clay, what it looks like. You do it and you can make the shape, but it will break off. You may have silt, which is a very fine particle, not as fine as clay. And if it just crumbles, you probably have sand. People out near the beach in San Francisco and out near the ocean, heck, Golden Gate Park with sand dunes. They have a lot of sand. So find out what your mineral composition is. What you want is a good loam. And there are ways to find that out. I'm not going into that in detail now, but the thing that really helps all of them is this minor component, which is really what you get in the living part of the soil. It provides all sorts of things. But do not leave the ground bare. Have mulch or cover crops that keep the soil in proper shape. That's also good for many things. Now, fertilizing, once you get the thing in the ground, I mentioned before we started, I'll show this here. Alfalfa pellets. This may be the same plastic bag, actually. Alfalfa pellets look like the thing you feed to goats and sheep and things like that. And then a good rich, whoop, I hit it twice. Whoop, let's see. Sorry, I'll keep control of it here. There we go. Hit the wrong button. There are, whoop, I need to get my pointer back. Technology is great. I used to routinely curse Bill Gates once a day because sometime during the day I would have to complain about something I was using. Word, Excel, PowerPoint. Okay, okay. Compost, see how nice and dark that is? That's the humus, it's the black. And I vermicompost, which is worm compost. Get this really great stuff. So this is the only thing on here that's not fully organic, but it's slow release. I'm not against chemical fertilizers. I work for a fertilizer company for a summer. But organics are better. This one has mostly organics, as does this EB stone, and as does this kelp and fish emulsion. Again, if you have dogs and cats, they love that stuff. Put it out there and they roll in it and they dig it up, try to eat it. But there are lots of other organics. Oh, shoot. The other organics, this is the Lingso Murderer's Row of Organics. Cottonseed meal, if you need slightly or more acidic stuff. Crab meal, that actually can be beneficial under tomato plants, of all things. There's all sorts of other meals, various sort of blood, bone meal. Again, watch for the critters and dogs and cats. And then there are things like this that isn't all organics. It has urea, which is a synthetic fertilizer, but it's very slow release. It requires the bacteria and the heat and water to make it release, so it won't burn the roots. And this is, of all things, a Miracle Grow. Miracle Grow, the spray-on, it has some of the main nutrients, but it's sort of like feeding sugar to your 3-year-old. May work, but it has other effects. And it doesn't provide all the nutrition. Organic fertilizers break down. Good compost adds nutrients and micronutrients and improves the soil health and the flora and fauna. Fauna being things like beneficial fungi, pardon me, that's flora as a fungi. And the fauna include beneficial nematodes, even gophers, which we talked about before the class, are beneficial in aerating the soil, but that's not the way you want to aerate your soil. But they do aerate the soil. There are lots of different critters in there that can be used. The decomposers and other things are in there as well. It's the soil web. So I'm going to do a quick demo next and show you how to do this. And we're going to switch to the close-up thing. If it should show there as well. If you want to, at home, I'm going to try and show it so you can see it. I'll get a couple of things to bring out here.
We had a question online.
Okay, what's the question online? Oh yeah, when they say permanent marker, they don't mean permanent marker. Your laundry marker is a little better than a regular marker, but look for garden markers and also use pencil. The Orchid Society, which I belong to, you can have an orchid there for a long time and it will fade. And so what I use is, have we switched to the local? Because I'm going to show a bunch of things in local. And I didn't bring the marker that I could show the kind I like. It's flexible. These, if you use the hard markers, the polypropylene markers, you tend to get brittle with time. These are vinyl. You can find them, and you can write quite a bit on these. One side's easier than the other. And I didn't, let me have a pencil and I'll, or a pen, this. I'll just talk it through. What I do is I add the date down here at the bottom so that I know when I did the cutting. And I tend to add things like it's a shrub, it's hybridized in 2002. Great. And so I will put down 11/5/23 in pencil. You can't really see it very well on the thing, but then I'll also write up here the variety and anything else I want to have so I can see from a distance in black. But if you get garden barkers or very expensive things that are called ear tag markers, they use for steers to ear tag them. Those will last. They're also very expensive, but garden markers you can buy. So I always have tags. I'll again show you the brick up close. 2 of these bricks, which are about the size of a brick, make all this. So that tells you these expand. If you get the 10-pound one like I do, and you put it in one of those plastic containers you get at Costco, big clear ones, it'll fill the whole thing up. Or a wheelbarrow, which when we did it here, it filled the whole wheelbarrow up. Now this is will need to be moistened a little more when it's for the permanent, but for right now, what you're doing is pretty simple.
Where do you get these?
Plastic pots, you can buy.
Online or the bricks?
Oh, I get them online. I don't know where you got yours.
Amazon.
Yeah, unfortunately, if you don't like Amazon,
Well,
you can find them, but it's not as trivial. So Wonder Soil, yeah, we can pass this brick around, but for the people there, it's Brick Plus. And if you could see all the fine print, which you can't possibly, and you look at it, you say, wow, this has a lot of stuff in it. Blood meal, feather meal, bone meal, fermented soybean meal, fermented cottonseed meal, kelp meal, worm castings, soft rock phosphate, and sulfates. And that's not all. They have biological bacteria, they're good ones, and biological fungi, that are good ones. They're all in here. So we can pass this around.
Take it.
Oh, okay, there we go. And so what I've done here is filled it up, compacted it just a little bit, used the very exotic tool to put some holes in it. Then I'll show you how to cut it. So we've prepped one of these. Then I'll show you a couple of things about cutting. I previously stripped this. This happens to be a Sally Holmes. And reason I have it because I have a ton of Sally Holmes. And what I'll show here is one cut, oops, there we go. One cut that's going to be right here, another cut that's going to be right here. And this part, you see you can sort of see it, there's stuff around it. That heel has a lot of growth points. If I kept this original one and used it, which I will, as a cutting, it'll probably come out of right here, even though I cut off the other part. That's a whole other thing we could get into about how to print. But this one's been in the water, and it was cut earlier this morning. But what I'll do is I'll make 2 cuts here right off the bat for materials to work with. I've got the flat, the flat part of the blade, the angle part of the blade, the sharp part, next to what I want to cut. Now you can sort of see the heel there. You can also see there's a little bit of it right here. A little bit of that heel. And then what I'm going to do, I keep going back and forth so that it works the opposite of the way I see it. And then I'm going to cut above one of the bud eyes. Don't need quite that much, so I'll cut above one of this and I can get 2 out of this. So what I just did, under each leaf set, there's a bud eye, dormant bud eye. You can sort of see it here. If you don't know what a bud eye looks like, I call it a nose and a smile. Where the leaf set came off, there's an indication of where the leaf set was. There's a bud, and it'll grow in that direction. When you do your pruning, prune to the outside, you keep the bud eyes going to the outside. What I'm going to do now is to make it easier to handle and less likely to catch on my clothing later on when I say, where'd that come from? Oh, I pulled it out from somewhere. I don't know where it came from. So there's one that's cut and prepped. I'm going to do a couple more here quickly. I'm going to cut another one the same way. Oh, I'm not on there, sorry. But you can see the area that was cut here and here. I'm going to have to Just a little bit more, there we go. That'll help. I'm gonna cut above one of these where it was cut off. So it'll do the sprouting right out of there. So this is gonna be one that I do. Now, what I would do on the bottom, cut off the thorns and recut it just barely and shave it. See, it's shaved at an angle here. See the angle, and I'll do the other side. And I'll cut down the middle to give it a little more surface area here. So it's cut in the middle, split, and then it's cut on both sides. So that's ready to go in. What I have prepared here is I took a little of the, these are from old ones, but they were used here before. This is a powder. This one is very powerful. It's a number 8. You can hardly see that there, but that's number 8 powder. Sorry, Amazon again. Clonex, which is a gel. And the nice thing about gels is they seal the cut a little bit. So does honey, if you use honey. And then it also will, I have a little bit of powder and some liquid in here. Dip it in the liquid, water works too, and then roll it in the powder. So it has powder on it. And I put it in here. Now you've just seen 90% of the demonstration. This is the kind of thing you do, and you just repeat it. You can use longer ones. This is about 10 inches. 6 to 8 is probably plenty for the things. And I'll cut off the thorns. And I'm just stripping it now flat. And this was cut recently, so should be fine. And I'll put it in here. And I'll put it in another one of these. So I'll do 4 of these from these, and then I'll repeat it. But I also want to show where you cut it off the plant. I showed you sort of where it would be cut off the plant, like here. And then this one's sort of short, but like I say, take plenty of cuttings, don't have to worry about it, it's cheap. And this, as you saw, was off of one different, one thing that I cut off the bush. Then got one over here. It had a split in it. So here I've got 4, and this happens to be Sally Holmes. So I'm going to write here in pencil. And I happen to know it's a shrub. I happen to know it's 1976. What happens to be my favorite rose. I have 30-year-old plants that have canes like that, and they get very big. There's one over in Markham in Oakland that has things that kids play horsey on. They're canes like this. A very vigorous plant. And it roots well. So there's something with the Sally Holmes, which you can't read because I don't have a black marker. And that's one of them. And I'm going to do another one that's Elena. Elena is a very nice hybrid tea. This is a shrub. Elena is a hybrid tea. And what I can illustrate with this is the proper stage to get something that is recently bloomed. Hey, yes, there's a petal to prove it. Now, what you do at this time of year is not deadhead. If you deadhead, you aren't creating the hip, and the hip is what tells the plant, I'm done. I'm ready to go to sleep, do more roots, get the nutrients, get ready for the spring. So you pull off spent petals. I've got 2 here that are like that. They're not hips yet. You can still see colorful stamens there. But you can also see it was cut off Oh yeah, there we go. It's cut off here. And you can see that I've got one piece with a point that I'll cut. That's one. Got another one up here. And like I said, I wouldn't keep all of this leaf, but I might leave one, even part of one, to give it the signal that I'm growing in that direction. This one doesn't have too many thorns, but I'll still cut them off. So this is Alina. Could you hand me the other tag over there? All the rest of them I brought are Sally Holmes, so it's easy to remember. I just didn't bring more tags. ELINA, very highly rated. I won a Queen of the Show with this one some years ago. So I like it. 11, 5, 23 down at the bottom. It is a hybrid tea. And I forget the year. You can look it up if you want. But this I've got ready to go. I've got a couple of them cut. I'll cut a couple more. That's pretty thin. So I'll get the thicker one here.
How thin is too thin?
Preferably, you're going to get the side of pencil because it has a lot more energy stored in it. Frankly, you can try anything. Worst that happens is it dies. And if you've got plenty of the cuttings, that's not a problem. So I'm going to cut some thinner ones. Whoops, sorry, didn't show it. Just cutting off the leaves here and there. One left. Cut off the stripe at the bottom. Put it in the thing here. Whoop. Forgot to put some in here. These do not have to be totally sterile. You want to rinse them out at least. It's not like orchids where you can transmit virus by looking at it or touching it. It's not the same. It's not quite that easy to transmit diseases. Oops. Oh, I've moved. That's nice to know. By the way, as a safety precaution in the garden, if you have a phone or a watch, take it with you. If you have an Apple Watch, it can, for people like me that are getting older, tell you I have fallen, and you can tell it, no, I didn't, or I'm okay. But there's a new thing that I just learned about, which is you are walking unsteadily, you may fall. And that can be interesting. You're smarter than I am. I'm a early adopter Apple person. I started the 1000th Mac user group in the 80s. We used PowerPoint before it was a Microsoft thing, used Word and Excel in their beta versions. And that's when I was cursing Bill Gates every day, because it was a beta version. But the watch, I've really been pleased with. I actually give a class on how not to fall in the garden and how to get up and things you can do to make it easier as you age. I'm going to give one of those for the Camellia Society in November 20. I don't know that that's available except in person with the Camellia Society. I'm sure they would let guests come in. So this one, sorry, I didn't show the whole thing. Doing the same thing over and over again. No? So those are a couple that are done that way. I'm going to have to do, this one is Elena. So I've got this. The others are all going to be Sally Holmes. Though we have, we have that one. Do we have anything to label it? We can put tape on the outside of the black pots. These are taken from outside here right before the seminar. So we'll try not to
Tip this over.
Well, here, I took it over. Why don't you put it in here? It's a little more stable. So here we've got something that's, whoop. Okay, here we've got something that's been cut in the garden. The end is the part that's right next to the main cave. It's about a pencil size. And I'm going to take one here, maybe only two, because it's not quite long enough. How are we doing on time? Getting there.
Fine.
Almost there for questions, and we did say 290 minutes, so we got some time for questions. Have any other questions coming online?
No.
Okay. That was a good one, by the way. For the end?
Yeah.
3 ways to cut it. One is on a slant. Another is stripe it and cut the bottom flat. And the third is also cut up the middle of it, which all of those provide more surface area in the canvas. Is the audio coming through okay, do you think? It should.
Nobody's complaining.
Oh, that's good. So this is iceberg. Most popular rose in the Bay Area, shrub, tends to take pretty well from cuttings. There are 2 types. Most people only know one, the shrub, little shrub. There's also a climbing iceberg. And I've propagated some of those too. And I have 18 feet wide, 9 feet in each direction. So, and it blooms all the time. But iceberg tends to be easy care, not too many diseases, and it blooms all the time. So that's the kind of thing people like. And the most popular rose amongst the consulting Rosarians, which are silly people that consult on roses, like me, in the Northern California, Nevada, and Hawaii district of our rose national organization, is Sally Holmes. She goes well in our area. It's a little tender for back east, probably for Nevada too. So all I just did was cut it. I think I'll add a little more powder. The reason I'm putting it out of the thing is so not to contaminate. And I can dip it. Then what we could, other people can watch this afterward if we have time, but I have now 3 varieties. That one's a good one to put on here. Let me finish it up with 2 more. Let me take one off of this, a little bit thicker. Sorry, I'm not looking up when I'm doing this and not doing it, so it's always visible. And one more. Yeah.
When you strip the cambium, are you stripping the node as well?
Part of it. There's still enough of the material that could want to come out of that area. If you just split it, I'll do one just split it. And you can do that too. Oh, well, I didn't. I ended up cutting it off. I more than split it, but let's just pretend you can do it anyway. Just cut it flat. It'll work, but you're adding more cambium layer. And so I'll have 4 in each of these. So now we've done 12 in the time that it's taken here, 15 minutes or so. I can usually do 40 or 50 at a sitting and just make sure you have enough tracing of the names. That is so important. And I've screwed up numerous times. So I can say that's a failure mode for me. And if you don't use all your potting material, you can cover it over and just keep it moist and it'll last for a while. This has active soil critters in it, the bacteria in fungi. So it's living soil. So that one needs that. Oop, poke that back in. And then the other thing we should do is what I say, how one of the major failure modes, drying out. So keep it moist. I'm not going to do it for all of them, but you can worry about those later. Put it in there, yeah. Yep, and you can probably pour a little of this out if you want. Yeah, that's fine. So that's what it looks like to do this. I think I showed you the sharpening, did I, on the video? I think I did.
Yeah.
And the other thing I showed on the video was the pH test. And let's not lose this one. That's her check for membership in the Peninsula Rose Society. I don't want, and I'm the membership chair, so it would not be cool if I said, I lost your check. If you're interested in that printer, uh-oh, I know what I say, uh-oh, what it means. Yeah, this is the type of printing I like, and it also works in your kitchen knives. You go through the expensive sharpening process, that's fine. You're just trying to do an edge. This works pretty well. I also have somewhere in my kit a diamond hone. You actually want a little bit of the sawtooth roughness on the edge, so this does a really good job of that. But if you need a really fine edge, use a diamond hone type of thing. If you need a coarse edge, you use stones, coarse stones. I think that covers most of it. Let me go through on the next slide. Yeah, and then, whoop. Okay. I want to thank the, sorry, one more time back to, I think I showed this to people here, but not to the people on screen. This just shows you what you can get in a couple of months. These probably have roots, but you're coming out the bottom, but they should be soon. This has the Sally Homes, it has a proper listing on it, and you get 2 places that have growth on them, and it's starting to leaf out. This one is about probably 1 year old, just about. I don't have the date on it, but it's, as you can see, blooming. This is a shrub called LD Braithwaite, very nice red shrub. It's actually one that won the best shrub amongst about 30 or 40 shrubs at the Rose Show last year. I took a cutting from the person that grew it, and it's legal. But you can see it's already bloomed over here. So I could cut it, and I could cut it right at this juncture if I wanted to. I'm just going to let this go and not cut it off, because it's going to become a nice big plant. That's going in the ground soon. So back to the slides. I'm sorry about this. I'm back and forth. Lucky you're experienced with me coming around. If you, I'm trying to go backwards, and I'm going forwards. There we go. Thank you to the Arboretum Society for sponsoring this. I prepared it. I think all the slides are mine, or the photographs are mine. If you have any questions, you can ask the Master Gardeners. That's great. Many of the hard questions they can send to me anyway. Or you can get hold of me in my very secret email, which is studalton@gmail.com. No one would guess it's me. And these are a few from the garden. The one that's 30-year-old as a climber is Handel. Another climber that is more like a shrub in my garden is Claire-Matan. And this one I lost, but I need to get a cutting of it. It's actually too young to get a cutting of. I think promised 50 cents on every rose sold goes to breast cancer awareness. And Graham Thomas, which is an old David Austin rose, one of the first good yellows that he hybridized. Now he's got some other good yellows, but this is one of the first, and I really like it. I am open for questions, either online or in person at this point. Question from the audience.
So the last 4 that you planted, only one had a leaf and the others didn't.
They'll work.
What's the question?
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry. I left one leaf on one, I didn't on the others. I've done it both ways. Usually they don't care. The leaf is only telling it which way is up. And if you remember, you're in pretty good shape anyway. The rose knows what it's doing. I didn't say this story here that I have told many people. Sally Holmes is my favorite rose. I have a lot of them. I was planting a different rose and I needed something to put a tag on. So I took a cutting from Sally Holmes, stuck it in the ground, put the tag on, and it sprouted. Well, that's fine, except it was upside down. It didn't know which way it was up. It still started from the node. It starts really easily. So it helps to have it know from the leaf which way is up, but not absolutely necessary. The last one I did, and several others I did, didn't have any of these on. Other questions from the audience? Yes. In front.
Is it best though to wait until it actually formed a full hip?
The question is it best to wait till it forms a full hip? No, recently bloomed is what it says in the thing. So this was very recent. I mean, it still had a petal on. And you can do it now, or you can wait until pruning time. Hey, in our area, January, you still might have a bloom or two, but it would be relatively recent. And what you're really trying for is still some growth potential, but you want it to be heavy on the rooting hormones. And so that's why you let it go. And that's also why you pull off the blooms to get it to be a hip, so that when you do prune it, it's semi-dormant. Our area never goes fully dormant. We're not like Minnesota or something. It just slows down way down in wintertime. I've also given the pruning demos here and have pruning things if you're interested. There are some of my cards here and some at the entry. I can send those to you from the Peninsula Rose Society if you're interested in anything like that. There was 2 other questions. Well, one back there.
So is it good practice to do like the multiple cuts on the bottom, like
I
does it
do.
matter?
I do, not much. People have said they use these. Some people split it. That's why I said all 3 in one of the earlier slides. Checking back. Whoop, no, I can't.
Again,
Oh, no, it's okay. It's okay. Whoop, here we go. Okay, this one said, slanted cut, split stem, and stripes. All 3 of those will work. All you're really doing is more surface area for you. That's the important part. I don't need this anyway. Okay, plastic tags have no audio. Oh,
no, that
that was earlier. Okay. Why should we not deadhead? That's an easy question from Lori online, and I'll get to other ones later. You don't want to deadhead because you want it to have the hormones saying, I'm done. I'm not putting out new growth. When you deadhead, you stimulate new growth. And you're really not trying to do that. You're trying to let it go to root. So that's the answer, why not deadhead.
and above that, what is important?
From planter to ground to make sure it adjusts well. What is important? Okay, that's a good point. Try and get as much root ball as you want, as you can. That's true for when you buy them in the same way in the nursery. You know, if it's really root bound, you're going to disturb the roots. But if it's got fairly tight roots and holds most of the soil, which it should, then you just gently tap it, have it come out and put it on top of the soil. You don't have to make a cone or anything. try not to disturb the roots any more than you have. Fill it up with soil, keep it moist, it should be fine. If you have mycorrhizal inoculant, you can use it and that'll help it. But you don't have to.
That's it.
That's it on there. There were two questions here. Yes,
What should the pH be?
I didn't say that. The question is, what should the pH be for soil? And I showed this soil test. These are like litmus paper, only they're designed for soil, not for aqueous pH. So you do them per the instructions. You get a sample down in the dirt, and what you want is very slightly acidic. 7 to 6 in that range is good. 6.5 is optimal, but doesn't have to be perfect. You can adjust that with things like shell addition, bone meal addition to get it more alkaline. Usually the soils in our area are often alkaline, unless you're under a redwood tree or something. And then to make it more acid, for a little bit of acidity, you can use cottonseed meal, which is also a nutrient. And it breaks down slowly, and it's a great, I used to plant all mine because my soil was slightly alkaline with cottonseed meal. You can also use sulfur, but that's like dynamite. Really changes the pH. There are other things you can do, but those are examples. You can test it with this cheaper than you can do send away soil tests, which are very expensive. So they're not bad. They tell you all sorts of things, but you got pH. You can get a calomel electrode and do it right, but that's only chemists do that. Or you can get the thing you probe in. I never find those very accurate. This is more accurate. Next
Do
question.
you know a seminar about grafting?
Grafting, sure. Grafting is a little harder. I've done it for apple trees. And there's cleft grafting and other things that you can do. Again, you're matching up with cleft, you're matching up the cambium layers. With bud grafting or chip grafting, it's also called, you can do that, but you have to have a good rootstock. I've tried it on Sally Holmes, which is a nice vigorous rootstock, but it's too vigorous. It suckers and you got Sally Holmes coming up. Same problem with, you can buy clean rootstock in abundance that's been treated specially with a low temperature autoclave from UC Davis. But you're really only doing that if you're a commercial grafting hybridizer. Otherwise, you can hope you've got good rootstock. You let the thing grow. You strip off all the old buds that are on the old rootstock. You take a slice out of the area above a bud, and you carefully strip off something from the host material that you're trying to graft on that's the same size. And after you match it up, you wrap it. There's grafting tape, which is slightly stretchy, and you don't need glue or anything, and it'll eventually fall off. I've done that with apples. It works great. You can also put on a tar-like substance that seals the cambium so it doesn't dry out. But you're trying to get healthy material in both cases, just like with cuttings. So it's a little bit more of an art. Go online, you'll find lots of people that will show you videos of it. I don't have a video of that. I do have a video of propagation on the Peninsula Rose Society YouTube site, but it's a very quick one that I do. You got more than that on this.
Thank you.
Another question.
You mentioned the rooting hormone was number 8.
Yeah, it's the number 1 is the one you usually find in any garden store. I'm sorry, the question was what number this was. This is, why is it important? It's like a jolt. It's like a heavy duty hormone, which will cause even things that are hard to root, like woody plants like azaleas and camellias and rhododendrons, to want to root. So I use it, even though it's a little like dynamite, it really gets the thing going. Another question.
You've never tried the banana method?
Which?
Banana.
I haven't yet, because I eat the bananas and feed them on my worms. They love the banana. But literally, yes. You probably will not get a banana plant, which is the issue with potato plants. Because once you plant potatoes, you're always gonna get potatoes. You never find that one tuber that was down there in the bottom. I've done that for years. And I just, oh, what potato was that? Oh, that's the little red potato or the fingerling or whatever. Anyway, but the banana, you're not gonna get the sprout in our climate. And it'll degrade. In fact, why don't you use one of the rotten, or not rotten, but bruised ones that's really high in sugars, it's really ripe. Bury it, you stick it in the banana, and then the banana's heading down, and you put it below the surface. Dig a hole for it. Sure. Sure. Oh, online question. The rose stops producing the original flowers and reverts to a reddish purple small shaped flower. Well, you're welcome. This, I don't have the right in here. Oh, sorry, that's this one. It almost looks like a flower. That's not. That when the petals come off, that's the stamens and the anthers, and it's probably been pollinated and will turn into a. But before it turns into a hip, it turns into one of these. I mean, I think the peduncle down here and the sepals are down. So that sort of looks like a rose, but it's not. It's sepals. Other questions? Yes.
I'm curious about the alfalfa, and is that just like a general fertilizer? And when do you put it on the sprinkler?
Yes, no. It's a all-purpose. I use it for alfalfa. I'm sorry. The question was alfalfa and when you use, and what is it? Is it general purpose fertilizer or is specialized? It's general, and it's not a fertilizer the way you buy it. It's a food for the sheep and the other critters that like it. Has a big bag, 50 pounds. They'll load it for you, and then you have to figure out how to unload a 50-pound bag. But you can seal it up again. Just take out the amount you need. I put about a handful in multiple times a year, which gets to your point, after each bloom. So a bloom cycle might be 6-8 weeks. Do it again, put it into the ground so that it'll get into the ground under the mulch with the compost or whatever you put in there. Excuse me.
Alfalfa's available with molasses and without molasses?
Correct. I did say that. Normally, if you just ask for alfalfa, that's what they'll give you at the feed store. But you say without molasses, because with molasses, it'll mold. That's the main reason. I don't think it hurts it much.
Track rodents also?
Yes, I was.
Well,
gonna say that.
alfalfa does.
I bought that, I don't know what kind of pound thing, but I didn't see, I had it in the garage. But I should have put it in like a metal, container.
The question is, does it attract rodents? The answer is yes. Not as much as some of the organic fertilizers I bought. Fish meal, that box didn't look that way before, and a big hole in it, and they like the fish meal. And cats, dogs, etc. too. But many of the organics have some kind of odor that attracts critters. I've had the fish meal and kelp meal, particularly, and crab meal, all attacked. Alfalfa not as much, but it can grow.
So but once you put it on or in the
In the
ground.
dirt
then
and cover it.
They're not gonna dig at
Yeah,
it. Okay.
this isn't as attractive as fish. Fish, they'll dig the dirt up that you put it in. And you can tell it's there. I mean, the dog's nose is much better than mine. The answer on, do you put it in into the ground? Yeah, 6-8 inches deep should be plenty. I use an auger. I use it for that, and I use it for organic fertilizers. Works. And just cover it on. Other questions? Yes, Matt.
Speaking of mold, is there any suggestions to prevent the plant from getting mildew or?
Yeah, mildew is actually something I usually have as a illustration, but I don't today. If you look up UC and rose and mildew, you'll find a write-up on the research that's been done on it. Some things help a little. Neem oil, it's organic. I use neem mouthwash every day. It's 1/4 as toxic as table salt. Eat too much table salt, it'll kill you. You have to take a hell of a lot of neem to kill you. So it's a mild fungicide, insecticide, and miticide. But stronger and will eradicate, according to the UC research, is potassium bicarbonate. Potassium is K, two of potassiums, CO3, eight, and it has, it's bicarbonate, so it's 2 carbonates on there. And it's a relative of baking soda. It's also sold as a nutritional supplement and on Amazon as well, cheap. And you use 2 tablespoons per gallon of water, and it eradicates mildew. It's a mild fungicide. There was a commercial product called bicarb, old-fashioned fungicide. It's been used for 100 years, a mild fungicide. So you can use it for other fungus diseases as well. But it's definitely non-toxic because you can take it as a nutritional substitute. Of course, if you take too much of anything, baking soda, potassium carbonate, they didn't like us. Too noisy. But that's one thing you can use. You can look up any disease for roses online, the way master gardeners do. You go to you can go to UC, University of California, roses, and say what you think it is, fungus, whatever. And it'll give you things on abiotic disorders, pests and diseases, culture and care. There are long write-ups, and there are specialty write-ups on things like mildew, if you have a mildew problem. Weevils, there have all sorts of stuff in there. And if you have any questions on that, give me an email and I'll help you interpret. There was another one. I think we touched all online. Any other questions here? If not, we're darn near perfect. One time. And follow up with my cards if you wish.
Yes, big program again, Stu. We'll learn how to propagate all our favorite roses. In a few days, everyone will be emailed a link to a recording of the presentation and an evaluation form. Any unanswered questions can be addressed at that time. We appreciate feedback on what worked and where we can improve, and what programs you'd like to have us have in the future. Please join us for future seminars and workshops. On December 3rd will be our annual holiday wreath making workshop. In-person attendance is full, but spaces are available for Zoom, and you'll be able to pick up your supplies here a day or two before the program. You can register on our website, sanmataeoarboretum.org/classes-events, or leave a message, 650-579-0536. In January, we're going to have a rose pruning class. It'll be the first Sunday, I think it's the 7th, and we've obtained some donated roses, so people that attend in person will actually have a rose to practice on, but it'll also be available by Zoom, but you'll just be watching the program rather than having a plant to practice on. The following Saturday will be our, weather permitting, will be our annual rose pruning in San Mateo Central Park. All the Rose Garden volunteers will be there, and so you get to practice on lots of roses and learn. So the 2024 programs will be up on the website, hopefully within the next week, so you can register for those programs. The Arboretum Society also has a variety of volunteer opportunities in the greenhouse, nursery, education committee, of which have Pat Paquette and Francesca back there, all part of the education committee. And so we'd love to have more people with more ideas and to help with more programs. let us know if you're interested. You can put it on the evaluation form and we'll be contacting you. Or you can leave us a message on our phone. A huge thank you to Stu for another interesting program, and to Kevin, our president, for handling the technical part of our program. Thank you for joining us today. The program is now finished.
Thank you.